can, we're live on the secondary account now. We just got blocked off of Facebook Live, and also on we lost our internet connection, so we were forced to end that first video and start another video. And the reason there's a different background is because we were prompted to move to find a better location for internet connection. So there we go. We're back now. So that was strange, and we're on a different Facebook account because we are blocked out of another, according to what they're saying. But hey, Cliff, if you can just start sharing however much we can share on this broadcast, and then hopefully at some point, well, you know, that's the way it goes. Again, we don't control the enemy's transmission. Unfortunately, we utilize the enemy's transmission. So we'll get back into what we were talking about: building bridge to God. The purpose of mankind is to build a bridge to his creator. The Synagogue of Satan has foisted on the world the simulation of the bridge to God, or religion. Our pineal gland, or mono eye, is the basis of our bridge to God. Instead of permitting God's natural law, the Satanic system foists a simulation upon God's people. The simulation of the mono eye, or bridge to God, is money, or mono eye, money, based in the simulation code 1010. We shall cover the Satanic simulation code to expose the Khazarian mob, the basis of usury, which is the combination of compounding interest and arbitrage. All statements and beliefs are based in God and our birthright. Amen. God bless America. And, you know, we need to restore this system that is of our ancestors, rather than the system that is based on this human manifestation of the devil, or the adversary of the natural law. And we call them the Khazarian mob, the Synagogue of Satan, etc., 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 and those who give them aid and comfort. So, Cliff, that was pretty wild, wasn't it? What's going on here? Are they letting us do anything here?
I'm sharing on my account currently, so those are at least going through.
Okay, that's cool.
Or so it seems.
Oh, so it seems.
There's no notification.
Hey, Dave.
Saying that all your posts is...
Hey, have you heard anything from David?
No, not since he let us know that he wouldn't be able to call in tonight.
Oh, okay. Oh, is he sending? That was on a Facebook message then. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it was on Facebook. You may or may not have seen that.
I did not. You know, I really attempt to stay off of Facebook. I mean, folks can see. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't like, you know, Facebook. And I do like Facebook. Folks can see, you know, what I'm doing, and I have to use different devices, but I try not to, and can only check the messages on the things I use the least. So yeah, I don't. That's the last thing I check is Facebook messages. But anyway, well, that explains that. Yeah, we were on a pretty good roll talking about simulation. Like, you know, they give you a simulation of your rights when they tell you to go vote. You know, you make a simulation of a difference. It's not a real difference. It's just simulating that desire, or that portion of your bridge to God, to be able to have some sort of say over the society, the culture, and simulation excuse me, and civilization, quote unquote, that one lives in. That's where this mockery code comes in when talking about voting. Voting is horrible. We don't accept any sort of voting. Voting is using mass mind control to take away the rights of God's people. We don't accept the results in any way. We're not a party to that contract because, number one, when we enter into our society under our laws, there are inalienable rights that can never be taken away. Now we're getting back into the rigging of the election here in Virginia. Not that the Republicans wouldn't take your guns away. It's just that the narrative would be broken. The suspension of disbelief would become impossible. So they have to rig a certain election for the Democrats. So that's why when we mention certain names like Showalter and Nachman, when
Chris, this also ties into the broader narrative of the Democrats on the quote so-called federal level being the party that's rigging the most elections, even though we know they all rig the elections. So
right.
It feeds into that narrative for.
Oh, I mean, but here's the thing, Cliff. I mean, when you've been following and exposing rigged elections and talking about them to, I mean, sometimes millions of people, when talking about them on international television, they've rigged them for Republicans and they've rigged them for Democrats, and every one of them is rigged. And it's rigged before they even get into these computer voting systems that they can rig outside of the hacking. They don't even have to hack into these computers, which they're always hacked into. I mean, they don't have to do that. They can rig it in any number of different ways. I mean, okay. We talk a lot about organized crime. And, I watch some of these documentaries on gangsters, and they're total like manipulation of the facts, and like, oh, Lucky Luciano, he was a informant once, but only once, and he worked with Lucky Luciano, and Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky was actually an underling to him, and blah blah blah, and it's just like, it's all BS, but there's elements of truth in there, and that's what can't be disputed. So what can't be disputed in any sort of way is that they rigged these elections, and you got to be a dumb not to be able to see this stuff. Well, okay, so it's Friday night is terrorist night for the news, right? Am I correct there? I mean, that would be a good thing, especially the past 2 weeks where we go, okay, hey, that's an election stunt. They're trying to get people to talk about something about the UK other than Epstein and Andrew Windsor. So yeah, they're gonna have this, right? Yeah. So when fake Prince Andrew. Okay. So there you go. So and then here Friday, it's the soft disclosure of the fake story. Okay. So the average American who doesn't listen to this show where we say, hey, there's Chinese military they're training with the U.S. soldiers here in America. There's Russian military. There's Saudi military. There's Israeli military. There's 5,000. By their numbers, they say there's 5,000. There's a brigade of foreign trained military living in the United States. And this guy who was a Saudi was living in the alleged shooter down in Pensacola. We talked about that on the broadcast that they shut off earlier, so we got to go back over. But I mean, folks know this. You got to be up to speed with the basics of what's going on in the world to watch this show. So let me keep going. Yeah, we're gonna start I'm just gonna start blocking people like left and right because
Yeah, it's been a
Right. So what they did was they created this scenario by which they're releasing information that says, hey, there's 1,000 Saudi military officials being trained in the United States. So did this really happen? We know last week it didn't happen. Clifford, now what kind of mockery are they putting out and like removing my entire live leak channel because I said exactly what that last Friday's London bridge attack was? It was staged by the government. It was a hoax. And it was an election stunt and a misdirection away from the so-called fake Prince Andrew and his association with Epstein. That it was just a total misdirection and it was an election stunt. What has happened since then? Well, basically, it seems like the markets are guaranteeing a win by Boris Johnson, or Bojo, as he is Bojo the Clown, as he is more accurately called, the Chabad Lubavitcher, the guy who lived on a kibbutz, the grandson of a famous rabbi. And so that's what happened. Muslim terrorists, and they're gonna do all sorts of stuff out of it. They're gonna charge everybody with terrorism, and then stick them in jail and not let them get out. So that's the little angle that they're going. Whether that's just a little, wag the dog, election nonsense, or whether any of the election results mean anything, because here in the United States, and I presume the same in the UK, there's a huge percentage of the population, the only competent individuals that are out there, that do not vote. They don't vote. If one is smart, they don't vote.
Maybe that's why people who vote. They're subconsciously trying to just tell everyone they're incompetent.
Right. I mean, and the idea that rights, God-given rights, that are explicitly, written down in statutes, is going to solve anything, that's absurd. And you know what's also more absurd is, there is a problem with guns here in the Richmond, Virginia metro area. And I can tell you, the folks that are against any sort of gun restrictions, they're not the problem. We are not the problem. We are carrying our guns. We're not making mistakes. We're not, shooting them off, in neighborhoods, out in the air, and we're not shooting them into anybody. They're for our God-given protection. And I can tell you, yeah, there's a huge, huge problem, but they're not addressing this. The places where the problems are, it's like Richmond City. Certain parts of Chesterfield County now, certain parts of Henrico County now, but it's not the rural areas where young individuals and old individuals are popping caps in each other. That's not where the problem lies, and that's who allegedly is going to be targeted by these gun laws or new gun statutes, which, again, if they go, it doesn't mean anything. Our religion says we don't have anything to do with this fraud and satanic system. Nothing to do with it. I don't agree to any of these contracts, and I have standing over them through inside my blood. Inside my blood. The contents of my blood, every element of it, puts me at a higher level than these individuals. This is a simulation of the common law. This is a criminal satanic system run by the Synagogue of Satan. That's what it is. That's what's going on here. And what do? They rig elections. And what does that mean? It means like they're not going to listen to what you have to say, no matter what. I used to see these things that say, I do this and I vote. I hunt and I vote. I do this and I vote. So what? They don't care. They don't care what you do. They don't care about your vote. Your vote doesn't count. You think that makes a difference? Things keep getting worse. You don't even know what arbitrage is. You don't even know that the basis of everything is just compounding interest upon compounding interest. And that, what do they say about that in the Bible? They say that's the worst crime you can commit. You know, if one engages in usury, the punishment is the death penalty, because it's always going to result in slavery and the degradation of humans. I want to read this thing to you right now, because it just proves the point. Okay, this is billions in gold missing from U.S. Federal Reserve. I believe that this was written by, I don't even remember who wrote this. Let's see. This is from 2014, and it's talking about the 2011 year. There is a Chapter 5 in the Reserve Bank of India report titled Dematerialization of Gold. And as you get to the chart under gold-backed instruments in global trends, what you see is a chart that was excerpted right out of CPM's book from 2011. CPM Group is a commodities market research consulting, financial advisory, and asset management firm. What the chart shows is the paper claims on gold being approximately 93-1 versus physical gold that is available in the same year. It is also admitted that 2011 report, there was 11.2873 billion ounces of gold as having traded against the available physical market supply of 120.8 million ounces. Now, to save people from having to do the arithmetic, that is a ratio of 93-1. Put simply, anyone who owns several ounces of gold through a paper contract which promises to deliver physical gold at a specific price, if physical delivery is demanded in one of 93 people in line for the same several ounces of gold. In all, 93 markets sold 93 contracts for every one contract they could actually deliver on. They gambled on 93 people would not all want the gold delivered, and as their payoff on such a gamble, they profited from premiums on 93 paper gold contracts. Put bluntly, the paper gold market is a charade. On January 8th, 2014, the COMEX warehouse published a disclosure chart which confirms the facts of this story. That chart shown below proves that there are 79.9, that's 80 owners for every single ounce of gold in the COMEX warehouse. They admit they sold the same ounces of gold to 79 different people, closer to 80 people than 79. This is a system that cannot sustain itself, folks. Duh. Okay. Okay.
So my question is, how accurate are those numbers? Because 93, between 93 and 79, I mean, how do we know they're just not making these numbers up?
Well, I mean, again, Clifford, think of all the arbitrage that's between 93 and 73 when it comes to billions of ounces of gold. At this point, $1,500 an ounce. Okay, so arbitrage is basically making a guaranteed premium off of the difference in value of one commodity between financial instruments. We've been telling you about this. Again, there's certain things that nobody has told you about on international television. Maybe other people have mentioned it in passing, but is the basis of every single one of my hundreds of interviews I've done on international television. That is, hey, that they blackmail people, and like the best way to blackmail people is to get a bunch of individuals who like illegally young sex with sexual slaves being human trafficked, and then have that be used to blackmail them for the rest of their lives, and therefore they must be put in high positions of power. And even over top of all that is the usury of everything system based in Basel, Switzerland, and the Bank for International Settlements, and the work of the Financial Stability Board, which quote-unquote legalizes all of this. And what the basis of all of this is, and all it is a system of creating money out of nothing and charging interest on that, and then hoovering up all the quadrillions of dollars in arbitrage, which is making money off of transferring the same commodity, whether that be the same cash or the same oil or the same ounce of gold or the same of anything, and making money on the differences in the value on all of the financial instruments the same piece of commodity is going to go through. All right. So now you're getting a master class in comprehending everything. So that's what this show is all about. And it doesn't matter if anybody's watching or if two folks are watching. If Cliff and I and David and I or anybody else is talking about this, it's more important than anything else because it's building a bridge to God. It's comprehending, hey, we believe that God's law is written down in the Bible. That's the basis of our law system, not unconstitutional statutes, not things based on voting, not things based on the same rules as American Idol, not things based on the same rules as, what's another thing folks call in and vote for? Who should be the Bachelorette or whatever. I don't know. That's probably not accurate. But it's based on God's law because it doesn't matter. It's all stupid. It's made up. It's all the same. Pressing a button on a computer, punching a dot, a hole punch through a little piece of paper. You think that means anything? You think you can take away my rights because you did that? And on top of that, it's all rigged. So when we see this thing last Friday, we go, oh, this is a hoax. And then we see video of this guy who's got the knife with no blood on it. We're talking about the London Bridge attack. Some dude is running it, takes a white hanky out of his jacket and throws it down like he's getting rid of some sort of evidence. And then we see the alleged dead body come back to life and then, pull his jacket on while he's lying on the ground. And everybody else has kind of walked away. They shoot him and then they just walk away. Our job's done here. Oh yeah, that's what does happen. It's the scientific facts. Chickens run around with their heads cut off, and a dead body, if he's got a jacket lying around, he's going to put it on after he's dead. It's just, natural bodily function.
I mean, again, even if he wasn't actually dead, I don't think say he somehow
I mean, Cliff, hold on a second, though. Do we have to be that literal? I mean, and I'm just asking you a question because I will be, but I'm saying, I'm using 100% sarcasm because anyone with eyes can watch that video of that guy pulling his jacket on. The alleged dead body there. So I'm being 100% sarcastic. Do we have to be 100% serious now?
I'm very well aware.
No, I know. I'm asking you. No, I'm not busting your chops. I'm saying I don't want to be misinterpreted in any way. That's fake. If one believes that, they got to be stupid. And like, so they ban something where it's obvious. Like, I didn't have to see that guy pull his jacket on to tell you that was a hoax and a BS story and nonsense. Just like what they're talking about on CNN right now. They said within a short time that thing last week on London Bridge, which was a fake hoax, was a terrorist attack, and then some Saudi Arabian. And what happened to the Muslim ban with Dodrump there? You know, he starts reading off and say, hey, the king of Saudi Arabia, the king. He doesn't even say Saudi Arabia. He just says this guy's like the king. Like he's like the king of all. We call him the Burger King, the Saudi Burger King, the Saudi Jewish, quote-unquote, fake Jew Burger King. But the president of the United States, who said that there was going to be a Muslim ban, is starting to apologize for, I mean, if this is real, this seems like, you know, I don't believe it's real, or it's not been proven to be real. But the narrative would be very easy to go back into the Muslim ban. Go ahead.
Didn't expand to Saudi Arabia. The Muslim ban didn't expand to Saudi Arabia.
Right.
It was just the 7 countries that
True.
were named as targets over the next
True.
5 years after the Zionist false flag of 9/11, which
Yeah, the Khazarian mob, the Jews. The Jews did 9/11. Yeah. Yeah.
it's a Saudi in Florida, and what there was the whole like Saudi what is it, patsies that had Florida connections, and that one of them left out of Florida.
Right, flight training again. Again, it's flight training too. That time it was a CIA flight training operation. This time it's official naval air station. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was like a throwback. But see, what I saw
So you think they're going to start bringing up?
they mentioned that
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
this was the second attack on a military base this week, and
Right.
And I had heard about this on Wednesday. There was some other attack. I don't even remember where it was, but I'm just like, and this was carried out by a straight up government agent, like someone in the military.
So it seems like this is.
That was the first thing I thought, that is this shooter also a former military allegedly?
Well, of course, and the guy shot 2 military contractors in that one, or was that this one that were military contractors? Hey, there's this big story here in Richmond. I want to get this out because there was a firefighter that was killed, a Richmond firefighter, and we know about their history. That they're kind of degenerate wastes of oxygen. Was killed in a shooting in Hopewell, which is kind of a, I don't know. I mean, it's not that great of a place. I mean, it's basically, it used to be the most polluted place in Virginia, and the most polluted body of water in the United States was right outside of Hopewell, and basically that's because they put all these chemical plants there, and anyways, they've been having a rash of shootings, and one of them involved a Richmond firefighter called named Lieutenant Ashley Nicole Berry. And they say she was protecting her young son from gunfire. I don't believe that. When she was shot and killed. And she was visiting another firefighter, but they won't name that individual. They won't name the Richmond firefighter that she was visiting. So this was Thanksgiving night. So again, this is these government agents are having their names, removed from the media, like the Henrico police officers that broke into gay Ellen Plack's house and murdered her and executed her, unlawfully executed her, murder, cold-blooded murder, broke into her house and killed her. They're anonymous. So why won't they say who it was that she was with? Because they would be, in my opinion, the suspect. You know, a shooting, a random shooting where, you know, the guy could have killed anybody but killed her. Yeah, I don't buy any of this stuff. And I'm seeing a bunch of criminals on TV taking advantage of this criminal's death. And I'm talking about anybody who works for the government, as you know, is an absolute criminal. So anyway, there, I wanted to get that. But again, why is everybody's name being kept out of the media? It's a real joke. It's a real abomination. But it's all BS. But I want to get into some stuff that we covered. Basically, Cliff, I like to line this out. Like when I'm posting stuff on the internet, it's probably because I want to talk about it in addition to posting about this. What piques your interest as far as a topic for tonight's show to start off with?
I mean, we can get into how they're not holding back anymore with the censorship. I mean, like, when I put up a video on YouTube about the fake London stabbing, I mean, they immediately took that down. I mean, because I just recently started a new YouTube channel, and of course not getting much traction, but this video was getting more traction than any of the others, not to be too surprising, but and it was immediately removed for hate speech, but for what they thought could be hate speech. So, I mean, that's the whole argument. It's their platform, so they can remove it simply because, we don't like the way it sounded, but that doesn't sound legitimate. So they have to create this hate speech narrative, and it's just ridiculous. I mean, I've been like shadow banned on Instagram where I can't post things, but I haven't been told about this. That recently seems to be lifted. So, yeah, I mean, it's just they're really cracking down. They're not.
Well, it shows where they're very sensitive. It shows what subjects that they're very sensitive about. And they were really sensitive about this London stabbing thing. And all I can say is, I mean, I don't put that stuff up on YouTube anymore. And I thought Live Leak was an all right place, and I got my whole channel. That's years worth of work. Probably about 2.5, 3 years worth of work. That's gone. Now, a lot of it's archived, but I don't know if all of it's archived. And that was kind of an archive, and it worked. The archive worked for 3 years. You know, if somebody new along could go like, wow, he's been saying the same thing for years. And these guys came out of nowhere just saying one of all of these things. And you got to connect all of them, or else none of them matter at all. I mean, but yeah, and the reaction is outrageous. I'll tell you, we've got. We'll have to rebuild this little system, but I can tell you, that this Live Leak system, I mean, it will get some views, and they will put the absolute worst kind of filth in the comment section. It's outrageous that they are allowed to put the kind of garbage they are on Live Leak. But anyway, it reached a lot of folks, and everybody, it was getting. This thing saying, hey, I mean, do I need to say it? Does anybody need to say it? This thing in London was fake. It was a hoax, it's an election stunt, and it is a misdirection away from Andrew and Epstein. There it is. And they got real sensitive about it because what? We start making that video, then we start making videos about, hey, the guy's moving. Hey, check it out. This guy's moving. Are you joking? I mean, because the only thing that's still up on the internet that I saw was something with no commentary from that one of those PK front things. I don't know if that person's a real person. PK? Is that like Peaky Blinders, but PK? I don't know. Is that somebody's real name? I mean, no. I don't know. Who is it? I don't know. But he's right.
I think it might be, maybe it's a reference to Peaky Blinders. I don't know. I thought it was like a reference to this one Nintendo game, but I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Yeah, probably more likely that. But in any event, okay. Yeah, it's right out there for everyone to see. If I can see it, anybody can see it. And if everybody else can't see it, then like, you know, I don't know what to say, because when they're faking these things and it's so obvious, and nobody else or the masses aren't going to it, and on top of that, even when they see this stuff is fake, they don't know why they're faking it. They don't know what's going on with the simulation. Just like if you say, I own gold. You don't own gold. 93% of the gold you own is imaginary. So, you know, if I eat 93% of a sandwich, I've eaten a sandwich to make a, you know, for what these Synagogue of Satan folks understand, their little euphemisms. I guess euphemism wouldn't be the thing. They're old truisms, I should say. So it's imaginary. It's all imaginary. And I mean, we could go into like the art. Let's get into some definitions, and then we'll get into how this is obviously Israeli intelligence that's going on, because basically they're telling us, oh, hey, there's 5,000 foreign troops training in the United States, and 1,000 are Saudis. Oh, so it's the Saudis. The Saudis did 9/11. The Saudis this. The Saudis that. Blah blah blah. Yup. Now they're talking about it. The FBI is talking about it. Some FBI agents, they're talking about it on TV right now. Let's see what they're saying.
Were they talking about the most recent Saudi psyop?
Yeah, they got a live interview with FBI Special Agent in Charge, Rachel Rojas. And she looks like she's crying. They've got a wide range of resources from local field offices, from the FBI Laboratory Division, victim services, and many more. So she's absolutely said nothing yet. She says, we're all in this together. I'm not in it. It doesn't matter to me. You know, like, I don't operate on a military base. These guys, that's where these guys, this guy spent 2 years with these other guys, and you decided to kill him. Man, I mean, I don't let myself get into situations like that. We owe it to the families to get this right. We're going to try to get to the answers that we are all seeking, what she said. U.S. Attorney Larry Keith.
We owe it to the family to get this
Yeah, yeah.
That being said, we are not prepared at this hour to confirm what may have motivated
They still don't have a motive.
horrific accident.
Hey, no manifesto to put to the testo there. No manifesto.
And this is still very much an active and ongoing investigation.
It's an active and ongoing investigation.
We will share more.
When we can,
Any more pictures besides
Confirming the shooter's name. There is a process of notifications and coordination.
oh wait, they won't even tell us who did it. Hey, isn't it funny? Sometimes it's within like right while it's going on, they know who did it, and then they still withhold it. But they withhold the name sometimes.
I think wasn't the name supposed to be Muhammad or something?
I don't know.
We need to do this for 24/7 because we got to get this right for the community.
We need to do this for 24/7 because we need to get this right for the community. That's what she says.
And we want to thank the public, and we want to thank the media.
We want to thank the public and thank the media.
I know that's a lot to ask, and thank you sincerely for taking
U.S. and Saudi officials on Friday evening identified the gunman as Ahmed Mohammed al-Samaran. Shamaran.
support to the families
I'm probably messing up that last name, but
that was taken.
that's the last name.
Okay.
It was in training funded by Saudi Arabia, according to Pentagon spokesman Chris Garver. Well, we know he's a paid liar.
Right. Right. Oh, and they're saying murder.
Scheduled to end August 2020.
They're saying 8 people hurt initially. 3 dead. Motive. So, hey, here's this other thing. So, like, this guy is military trained. He's obviously trained by allegedly the best. You know, he's trained, at the Naval Air Station. He's been there trained for years. You'd think he'd be trained by the Saudi military before he came in. So, this guy kills 3 and wounds 8. How are these high schoolers, in the same kind of scenarios, having a much higher kill rate than these trained military folks at what seem to be possibly real events? And,
I mean, we had how many weeks? I'm gonna go to my Instagram and pull up the half white, half Asian. And once again, I'm not sure what white means in this context, but I'm gonna go real quick. I bet y'all were expecting a white shooter. They gave y'all that Asian off-white for this fake shooting. They say it was his 16th birthday and he shoots up Sagis High School.
right.
Yeah, and in 16 seconds he empties 6 rounds and hits each one and he hits a target.
Right.
I can't remember if he killed 2 and then himself.
Yeah. I'm not sure though. But yeah, low counts as compared to other events. Even the thing in London. 2 people died. Hey, interesting stuff. I talked in the first broadcast about Dodrump and how he wrecked the markets, talking about everything from Iran to China trade deals to impeachment and everything else. And every time he had something that came out of his mouth, the international stock markets go down. So, that's another thing. If they can manipulate just like that, just give some actor a script and get them to come out and say some erratic things, and then all of a sudden real actual money, not this arbitrage, but actual money in this. I mean, it's a rigged market in every kind of way, but that actual money that people put into, mutual funds or put in their pension funds, actual money is lost as a result of this guy getting out and saying, a 45-minute press conference. That's a problem. Now, we all know the markets are rigged and they can wag the dog or have the man wag the tail of the dog, whatever. They can manipulate it in any way, one wishes. Like for this, if you have a bunch of, Saudis that hate the way Americans live and hate the American military, then, hey, maybe you will have this. If you have all these mind control machines out there and these MK Ultra handlers everywhere, especially on a military base, hey, that's a good patsy. What about the American military guy that did almost the same thing, several days before? What's driving these individuals to do these things? Because things will really happen.
Chris, check out this headline. 2 active shooters in 1 week prompt questions about military bases ban on firearms.
Right.
Installations generally forbid anyone from carrying a firearm, even if it's government issued. So they already have these completely unlawful bans that, I don't know what else to say besides
what's the purpose of having a military base if you're going to ban firearms? Even if they're government issue.
It's a complete nonsensical contradiction.
Right. It's a nonsensical contradiction. It's not a military base then. Unless they're like, that the real weapons are so much more powerful and, than the other weapons. But you want the, it's the idea of hey, a small group of individuals could take over this military base if everyone was carrying guns. Otherwise, there's a chain of command where they limit the amount of guns in folks' hands. Because they don't even trust their own individuals with guns, but yet they're trusted with weaponized drones, nuclear weapons, biological weapons. They're trusted with that stuff, but they can't even carry a gun. They can't hold on to this system. It's broken. All I can tell you is, like, if you think your life is good, then you probably don't live around a bunch of other people. If you think society is okay and is still functioning properly, you probably live in an area where you are isolated from other individuals and surrounded mostly with family and friends, and have not been made into an American refugee. There's the American refugee narrative is all out there. They did a story on 60 Minutes questioning what we question every week when they tell us, hey, stock market's at a record high, record unemployment. Oh, but we still have to have negative interest rates. We still have to create more and more money and do more and more quantitative easing. We still have to lubricate the system. Right.
The underemployment is worse than it's ever been.
Right. Exactly. Oh, that's right. When they say, like, oh, people are underemployed. Oh, well, these people are homeless. No, they're without shelter. They're without shelter. But they're working jobs. Still, they got a job to do. Oh, well, they're underemployed. No, they're underpaid. And this is the system. There is not a lack of money. There is infinitely compounding money. The amount of money is infinitely being compounded. There is more money now than ever. So why do folks go like, well, I don't have enough money? There's more money now than ever. So how is anybody in that position? Well, it's because they infinitely create money. They give individuals access to money and anything that lenders, banks, quote unquote, and at that point, that's when the arbitrage takes over. That's when the only thing you're good for in this money system is for them to charge you usury. Because without them charging usury, you wouldn't get anything from these banks. You know, you don't go just, hey, can I have exactly $10,000? And then, I know that you don't have this $10,000, that basically this $10,000 is being created when I borrow the money from you, and I'll just pay you back $10,000. Well, wait a second. I'll even give you $5 on top of that. I'll give you $10,005 back. That's not how it works. By the time you pay that $10,000 back, you'll give them $1,250 back, and all they had to begin with was $1,000. They didn't even have that. It's infinitely compounding money. Max, calm down now, buddy. So, I mean, and then you take that money, and it goes from this exchange to that exchange to that exchange, and then it gains more exotic power. All right, we'll get into exactly these definitions and how this is our religion. The elections are all rigged. Everybody in public life is criminal. France, police and protesters clash in massive strike over... Alright, there we go. That's annoying. Let's see. Hey, and I don't know, I'm just going to call this guy out. There's some guy that calls himself Michael Sorrell, and he sends me a bunch. Don't send me videos. I can't tell who's sending me messages on Facebook, and what you send me is not important. I don't pay any attention to that garbage. Let's see. France, police and protesters clash in massive strike over Macron's pension. So that's another thing that there was a little misdirection about. To keep up with the narrative, Bojo couldn't meet with Trump, and so they had to create some sort of like little fake fight between Macron and Trump, and a little what is it? Mean Girls. Locker room talk between Merkel, Justin Trudeau, and the fake Princess Anne. So they had these little narratives that went along with what was going on in London, but at the end of the day, they wouldn't let Trump get near the English Trump, Bojo, the clown. Virginia election hacked by Mossad. Website crash and ballot. And that's funny. It was right when that guy Brian Nachman got on the line. One of his family members is always involved in rigging elections for the Mossad. That guy's name is James Nachman. Jim Nachman. He was also a fake Freemason. And that's because somebody from his ethnic group can't be a Freemason. We won't allow it. And when I say we, I'm speaking on behalf of the original purpose of Freemasonry, which is to serve the legitimate royal line of England, although I don't limit myself to the royal line of England. This whole impeachment thing, it's about Russian mobsterism, and this guy Zelensky, who's in the middle of it. You know, like we were saying, you know, what are the odds of all this stuff that the Nadler, the head of the Judiciary Committee, Schiff, head of the Intelligence Committee, Chabad mobsters on the left side, that this whole thing is all cooked up because of a conversation with Zelensky, who's a Jewish, quote-unquote Jewish Khazarian actor in Ukraine, which we went over the history of the Kievan Rus defeating the Khazarian Empire during the time of Vladimir the Great and Prince Oleg, and then Yaroslav the Wise, the quote-unquote Kievan Rus take over, the origins of the Russian people, and how basically these tribes mostly descended from the Norse Scandinavian Vikings, basically started settling the land around the modern Ukraine and Eastern Russia, and that it was the Khazarian Empire that they defeated and ran out, and that this is just a swinging of the pendulum, and Chabad Lubavitch is like the big part of this Khazarian resurrection. The Rothschilds at the very top of this, and we get to the jokers underneath them like Roman Abramovich, Simeon Mogilevich, Felix Sater, the Mikhail Chernoy, the Sapir family. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's an article that I hope I can find, and basically this guy named, I think his name was Craig Unger, also a Jew, also limited hangout. He said that this book was that there were 59 main Russian connections when Donald Trump made his statement, I don't have any connections with Russia. None. There were 59, and half of those individuals were Jews. So again, we go through what are the odds that Jew is involved with the call on the impeachment, Zelensky, then the Jew who's in the military that was listening in on the call, he's paraded before Congress wearing his military uniform. What was that guy's name? Lieutenant Colonel something. Lieutenant Colonel impeachment. I'll find it. But that he's a Jewish refugee, quote-unquote Jewish ethnic Khazarian refugee from the Ukraine, but at that point was the Soviet Union. And basically, that's how it goes, that Donald Trump gets connected with all these quote ethnic Jew refugees from the Soviet Union, and then they start running what they call the Russian Jewish mob in the United States, and then years later they're being manipulated by foreign Jewish assets, and that but the ones that are allegedly exposing this, they're also foreign Jewish assets from the same ethnic group, and that all these this tiny ethnic group is Vindman. Vindman is the guy. Vindman, that Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, that all these characters, out of all these characters in a country where these quote-unquote, this ethnic group is less than 2% of the population, what's the odds that they are the vast majority or more than half of every important issue that comes across the desk of the American people? Cliff, that was a long way to get that out, but again, who buys this? Who is buying this?
I can't imagine anyone with a functioning brain or who isn't a shameless liar. But
let's just read some headlines here, and then you can make the decision. I've read the articles, everything that I post and talk about. I've read, and again, I didn't know this guy Zelensky was an actor. For Ukrainian Jews, having a Jewish president is a source of pride and fear. Times of Israel, and the picture is the normal picture you see for any head of state. the Jewish Chabad head of state, Zelensky, surrounded by bearded Jewish ZZ Top guys wearing black. You know, they look like Jewish Amish people or something like that. But it's the Chabad uniform. Let's see. France, police and protesters clash in massive strike over Macron's pension reform. They're basically arbitraging that money. Coming soon to America. That's what's going to be happening here. The narrative for the gun grab agenda had to result in a victory for the Democrats in Virginia. This is why the recent Virginia elections were rigged for the Democrats. That said, all elected officials are guilty of treason. And this is in regard to Board of Elections site goes down as Virginia searches for results. It's down for nearly 2 hours, and then we're told by these individuals, this is their story, that when it comes back on, it starts giving incorrect results. And then it turns off again, and then it gives what? Correct results? What incorrect results did it give? I mean, what's going on with any of this? Do you buy... Right, how do you know the results are incorrect? And if they're incorrect once, what's to make you think that, like, immediately it turns back on after inexplicably being shut down at the exact time when everybody's looking for the results? And then, what? You know, they go like, okay, we'll turn it back in because, like, we didn't want these results. We didn't want the actual results to come in. And then we turn it back up. Why is it spitting out wrong results? And how do you know so quickly that the next results are the right results? I mean, come on! Like, hey, did you guys see that guy putting his jacket on after they said he was dead in the street? He just put on a jacket? Oh, no, don't pay any attention to that. That's hate speech. That's hate speech. Right, law of sustainability. Anything unsustainable cannot sustain. Yeah, the government's not sustainable. So, I mean, I just want folks to go, explain yourself. Oh, you say explain yourself? That means you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. No, I mean, explain yourself. I've heard your explanation, and your explanation is absurd. You run out of ballots at 8 a.m. when it's the most hotly contested, race. Come on, give me a break. And it's the biggest precinct, the most voters in that race, and you run out of ballots. I mean, is that when you just pull the big switcher? I mean, you could do anything. Like, again, it's infinite. I know these things about how many different ways you can rig an election, because I was a delegate for the Democratic Party to their state conventions. I was a precinct captain. I know how the ballots work. I mean, you don't even have to do that. At this point, all you have to do is watch the election websites and watch the votes disappear right before your very eyes. Or see the results announced before the elections. All these things happen. Rare fog dome forms above North Wales as temperature plummets. Have any of you out there, ever heard of a fog dome? I mean, they say it's rare. So, and is that the way like a normal fog dome looks? Because that looks really crazy. Let's see what else we got here. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were spies who used underage sex to blackmail politicians, ex-handler claims. And this is a story about some guy who was a Mossad agent who was arrested in the United States for weapons dealing. And then he was let go because he was Israeli. We'll read a little bit of this in case you haven't come across this story. And this is from The Sun UK. Let's see. Again, we'll read the headline. Come spy with me. Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine, whatever, and Jeffrey Epstein were spies who used underage sex to blackmail politicians. Ex-handler claims. The pair allegedly ran a honey trap where they would provide... okay, hold on. Let me read this. Ghislaine Maxwell and her pedophile lover were both Israeli spies who took pictures of powerful men having sex with underage girls to blackmail them. Their alleged Mossad handler has sensationally claimed. Hey, Clifford, how many years have I been saying this exact thing on TV?
On TV. So
Yeah, years, like multiple years.
I've been privy to it for over 3 years now. So
For over 3 years. Okay.
It's been half a decade.
Right. Okay. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty obvious that this is the way it goes, and that this guy who's their handler was an arms dealer, a Mossad arms dealer inside the United States. We'll get to that later on in this story. And again, this is why I don't pay any attention to the alternative media, because all the information that we've been saying, and it's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I'm not so dumb. Let's see. The unsubstantiated claims have been made by Ari Ben Menashe, who claims he is a former Israeli spy. So this story pretty much verifies that. But again, which parts are unverified? Maybe he wasn't their handler. Maybe that's how they're going to misdirect on this. This guy didn't have anything to do with it, so they weren't Israeli spies. I don't think that's the angle, but they could do any angle. Like, any lie can be said. A lie doesn't have to be good. It just has to get in the way of telling the truth. Ben Menashe claims that he was the handler of Ghislaine's dad, Robert Maxwell, who was also a spy. Yes, that's true. They said that he was the head of the Mossad, but, you know, they've said a lot of things. And was the former newspaper baron who introduced Epstein and his daughter to the Israeli intelligence agency. He makes the unverified claims, or just, we should say, claims, in a new book called Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales. Interesting. There's all sorts of things that can be read into that, playing into the Epstein is not dead motif. In a preview of the book shared with Sun Online, Ben Menashe says Mr. Epstein was the simple idiot who was going around providing girls to all kinds of politicians in the U.S. But it wasn't just the U.S. too. That's funny that this is a English story, because, you know, the fake Prince Andrew is the most famous one now. See, effing around is not a crime. It could be embarrassing, but it's not a crime. Effing around is not a crime. It could be embarrassing, but it's not a crime. But effing a 14-year-old girl is a crime. So this guy is saying that this guy's admitting that he's the mastermind of this? I mean, the mastermind is going to make some money off of this? While Ghislaine Maxwell's in hiding and everybody else is losing their job, he gets a job. Okay. But effing a 14-year-old girl is a crime, and he was taking photos of politicians effing 14-year-old girls. I'm quoting him from the story. If you want to get it straight, they, Epstein and Maxwell, would just blackmail people. They would just blackmail people like that. Ben Menashe is a mysterious Iranian-born Israeli businessman who claims to have worked from Mossad from 1977 to 1987. He was arrested in 1989 in the U.S. on arms dealing charges, but was acquitted in 1990 after a jury accepted he was acting on behalf of Israel. Oh, but they're unsubstantiated claims. Oh, this guy says he's a Mossad agent, and he got caught, arms dealing in the U.S. but acquitted.
Half of Israel.
Yeah. He later wrote a book called Prophets of War. Let me finish this next sentence. He later wrote a book called Prophets of War inside the U.S.-Israeli arms network, and in the early 90s claimed that Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's dad, worked for Mossad. Duh! All these things are known. You know, I watched this documentary series about one segment was on the Lindbergh baby, and another segment was on Robert Maxwell being a Mossad agent. And just this 20-minute expose, I knew all this stuff already, but it was just something that was like packaged in a show, and I was watching with Amanda, and it was something actually she picked out, and it was good and interesting. But this is from 10 years ago, and it's everything about it. You'd have to be a dumb idiot not to know Robert Maxwell was a Mossad agent. These aren't unsubstantiated claims. If they're unsubstantiated claims, hey, you know, they got laws in the U.S. that are real easy, especially with exactly this kind of information that can prove somebody is a God-blessed liar. And so this is all old information. We talked about this years ago. I remember talking about this on Al-Alam TV on election night. Election night, where I said, hey, you know, Trump and the Clintons are compromised in this Epstein scandal. And worse. It's worse than you think. When you think, you know, it's pretty disgusting that they're effing 14-year-olds, it's worse than that. The book further claims Maxwell may have worked for other governments too as a double or triple agent. All these guys are double and triple agents. Look at Henry Kissinger and tell me that they're not all double, triple, quintuple. But they're really only agents for one thing, and that's this banking cartel status quo.
I think triple agent is just like management at this point.
Yeah, I mean, because
what is it? I mean, it's all these governments coordinating together to run these plethora of brackets. So, how can he not be a double to triple agent if you're gonna be running all these rackets across the entire planet?
Right. Okay. So we got that. So you got, you know, because Rudy Giuliani is operating in Ukraine and Russia, and you know, the 60 connections between Donald Trump and Russia. Okay, this will segue nicely into. I'll read you a sentence from this, and this is from the bylinetimes.com. Check it out. Really good article from the Byline Times. Nothing real new, but it just connects a lot of things together. From Mafia to Mayfair, Firtash, Giuliani, and the London connection. And here's an important segment from this article. As a bagman for mobster Simeon Mogilevich, Firtash directly links the Russian mafia to the British establishment. He was once described by a Chicago attorney general, probably district attorney. This is an English British article, as upper echelon associate of Russian organized crime. 8 years after his royal handshake, Firtash is currently holed up in Vienna, fighting extradition to the U.S., but remains untouched by British law enforcement. So, we'll show you this picture. That's the bagman for Simeon Mogilevich. And that is, of course, the fake Jewish, quote-unquote, Philip. There you have it. Okay, so let's see. Is it letting me go down? That's a really good article. And then underneath that, I posted this. And that is Chris Dorsey exposes the Russian Jewish mob and the Bank for International Settlements. And in that, we connected the dots between this Jewish prostitution blackmail operation with the Bank for International Settlements and all the governments and militaries of the world working together. And really, Virginia to outlaw militias and training companies. It's like militias and training companies. Like, the militia is written into the law and defined by the actual framer, the father of the Virginia and Constitution and the Bill of Rights, George Mason. So it's defined, so they can't do anything to the militia unless they say nobody has the right to have guns at all. That they can attempt to do that, but then that makes the basis of all the law null and void. This goes back to before the time of Alfred the Great. Here's some other stuff we wanted to get into with China. Chinese tech firm Huawei is suing the U.S. over blacklisting attempt. Now, Huawei is operating inside of the United States, and we talked last week about the German government saying, hey, you know, what's the difference between if it's Chinese intelligence or if it's the NSA, spying on German citizens? We don't care. It's the same thing. And in fact, there may be Huawei operations in Germany, but we know right now Huawei is certainly, beyond a shadow of a doubt, operating within the United States as we're speaking right now. So they already are having connections with the United States population. Huawei is operating inside the United States right now actively. Okay, so that's why they're suing in a U.S. court. We like to talk about Russia suing Venezuela in a U.S. court over oil and other things like that. Energy stocks are taking a dive. This OPEC meeting is very important because they've got to cut productions to save the U.S. economy. So Russia and the OPEC countries, allegedly the adversary of the United States, they have to cut production again to save the U.S. companies that are up against a brick wall, a gigantic, not fake Trump wall, but real wall of debt that they're about to go under because they're borrowing money that they can't pay back because there's such low demand for gas and oil because of the massive slowdown in the world economy and the fact that the world couldn't afford higher gas prices. Look at what happened in Iran over gas prices. All right, I'm going to start with Ezekiel 18:13. Hath given forth upon usury and hath taken increase. Shall he then live? He shall not live. He hath done all these abominations. He shall surely die. His blood shall be upon him. What is leverage arbitrage? And this is from Black's Law Dictionary. So we're going to look up leverage arbitrage. And we're going to associate arbitrage with compounding interest and say, there you have it. That's the basis. That is the basis of all actions in the economy. Leverage arbitrage, when a company uses its high credit ranking to borrow funds to invest. Okay, so that's leverage arbitrage. That's everything in the society. Okay, there is quadrillions of dollars in existence. We know a lot of this stuff is going to fraud. It's just going flat out to fraud, manipulation, arbitrage, which is we'll get a good definition of arbitrage here. Let's see. So leverage arbitrage is a company or corporation or individual using a high credit rate to borrow money to invest. So they're playing with house money. It's not their money that they're investing because they make their money through arbitrage. Hey, this is a good little mini article by Ralph Ellis, The Celestial Birth of King Arthur. You want to check it out, connecting the story of Hercules and King Arthur. So Arthur and Guinevere with certain translations. Arthur with the Fisher Kings. Here, China brings in mandatory facial recognition for mobile phone users. I've been talking about this for a dozen years, and then probably more. When somebody starts talking to me about how bad the Chinese government is and how bad that their censorship is and what they're doing with this and that, and if we're bad, they're worse. They could not do this stuff without Israeli Mossad operations and computer equipment from the NSA and 8200. That's what it is. I'll give you a good source for all that information instead of some folks are out there just skimming off the bottom of stuff people made months ago. The biggest thing on my social media this week was probably the little GIF saying that of the Khazarian saying that all other human beings exist to benefit Jews. That may be what it says in the Bible, but these guys aren't. They're a different ethnic group. Hey, watch the repo rates because that's going to be a big thing. Well, we already had record high spikes in the repo rates in the early fall. That's when repo rates went from about 1.5 to about 10%. And at that point, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York jumped in, and they're selling, they're putting more liquidity in the market because when the repo rate starts spiking, that means that folks don't have enough money despite the quadrillions of exotic arbitrage and exotic derivatives that are out there. There's still not enough cash for certain large banks to pay their bills in the overnight hours when they can't borrow money at a certain rate set by the Fed. They have to get these repo rates or the overnight rates. Okay, this is from December 3rd, I think. Maybe this is from last week. From financialtimes.com. Investors snap up Fed loans as cash crunch fears linger. Repo rates rise particularly when there is a shortage of cash in the system, making borrowers willing to pay more to get their hands on it. That's why we had a record high repo rate. So there's a record high lack of liquidity or cash in the market. Okay, Sahara Desert covered with 15 inches of snow as freak winter, blankets, sand dunes, weather warfare. Look into it. So this is something I shared, and then Corinne Garavanta shared it back. Speech by Vice Chair for Supervision Quarles on the Financial Stability Board at 10 years. Now, this is that entity that controls all the other things. So when the Attorney General of the United States says, hey, Deutsche Bank is involved with all this other stuff, fraud, laundering, drug money, prostitution, everything else under the sun, the Financial Stability Board comes in and says, no, well, that they were acting on behalf of the Bank for International Settlements. They were acting on behalf of the stability of the international economy so they can do what they want. So this is what I have in analysis with this statement, or part of the statement made by Quarles, who's head of the FSB, and I believe he's president of the Federal Reserve Bank, or he might be vice president of the Federal Reserve Bank. But he's a high officer at the Federal Reserve Bank, Randy Quarles. And I say this in analysis overall of the headline. Speech by Vice Chair for Supervision Quarles on the Financial Stability Board at 10 years, looking back and looking forward. So he quotes something about the Greek god Janus, looking back, looking forward. it's the end of the year when they're saying this, 10 years. Over the counter. OTC derivatives are contracts that are traded and primarily negotiated between two parties without going through an exchange or other intermediary. Products such as swaps, forward rate agreements, exotic options, and other exotic derivatives. The elements of the okay, so that's all the stuff that these guys do. And again, if you don't know what these words mean, you should look them up, because this is how money works. This begins Quarles' quote. The elements of the FSB's agenda for OTC derivatives fall into 4 categories. 1. Central clearing of standardized OTC derivatives. Central clearing of standardized OTC derivatives where appropriate. 2. Exchange or electronic platform trading of standardized OTC derivatives. 3. Reporting to trade repositories. And 4. Higher capital and margin requirements for non-centrally cleared derivatives. The most recent report on implementation progress finds that in jurisdictions with the largest OTC derivatives market, there is almost complete implementation of the necessary reforms. That means that today, OTC derivatives markets, which are crucial for the functioning of our financial system, are simpler and more transparent and generally more resilient. If that's the case, why is the financier and the backing of all of those things, which would be the repo rates, because derivatives, they don't stop compounding, when certain markets are closed. They're constantly traded between all markets, which are running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't stop. So how is any of this stuff possible? Well, the fact is it's not, but that's how everything works. And then I have this. Exotic options have unique underlying conditions that make them a good fit for high-level active portfolio management and situation-specific solutions. Complex pricing of these derivatives may give rise to arbitrage, which can provide great opportunities for sophisticated, quantitative investors. Arbitrage is the simultaneous purchase and sale of an asset to exploit the price differences of financial instruments. Okay. So we're going to take a little break here. Cliff, I want to keep going on a bunch of other stuff because I want to go a rapid fire. End it with a rapid fire. This is stuff where we're defining all these terms, and if one's smart enough, you can get it. It's all rigged, it's all fixed, and they're admitting this. And the Financial Stability Board is what we've been saying. And when we say FSB, we're saying the BIS. The Financial Stability Board is an arm of the Bank for International Settlements. It gives blanket immunity to commit any crime, and this has been put to the test. It's not just some law that's hypothetical. It has been tested through Deutsche Bank, through Citibank, through any number of other bankings, conglomerates that have been found to be laundering drug money, laundering terrorist money, etc., etc., that they will never ever be convicted, or not just the bank, their employees will never be convicted. And remember, we were talking about Deutsche Bank last week, where this guy allegedly killed himself, and he was Donald Trump's personal banker, signing off on billions of dollars in loans that Donald Trump didn't qualify, but he got anyways. This guy was also given billions of dollars for procuring and living the lifestyle to guess who? Jeffrey Epstein. And we're talking about this officer of Deutsche Bank called Bowers that killed himself a couple weeks ago in Los Angeles. Okay, we can all connect the dots here, right, Cliff? It's not even connecting the dots. It's just one big dot. Okay, so then we're gonna completely move on. Let's see. All right, we did share some stuff. Are the Welsh the lost 10 tribes of Israel? The answer is yes, but they're not the only ethnic group. But yeah, Alan Wilson does a lot of good work. So we just read that about over-the-counter derivatives and arbitrage. Supervision and regulation report, Federal Reserve Bank before the Committee on Financial Services. Let's see. As we move forward, we also understand the need to thoughtfully finalize the implementation of Basel III. So this is the Quarles. He's really kind of the top banker because he's the guy with the Financial Stability Board. And this is what he's saying. What do we need? You know, this is what we want to do. This is what we could do. But this is what we need to do is implement finalizing Basel III. Let's see where we're going to find that. And this is to Congress, Committee on Financial Services, U.S. House of Representatives, Washington, D.C., December 3rd, 2019. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Let's see. Where is it? Well, anyways, you can read that. But again, what he says is more important than anything is this quote. This is directly from the Supervision and Regulation Report. Federal Reserve Vice Chair for Supervision, Randall K. Quarles, before the Committee on Financial Services, U.S. House of Representatives. As we move forward, we also understand the need to thoughtfully finalize implementation of Basel III, and that's what they're doing in Russia, and that's what they're doing in China, and that's what they're doing in the EU and the UK, and Israel and Egypt and Albania and Ukraine and everywhere else. So we're going to try to keep on the line. If they knock Cliff off the line and they knock us off the line on Blog Talk, we'll finish up by talking to Cliff directly on his phone. I'll just call him on the number and we'll broadcast that way. Food prices begin to skyrocket due to weather shock, oil prices, and depreciating U.S. dollar. That's Dabu 7 or whatever his thing is now, but that's true. New legislation outlawing violent gun-wielding groups accidentally bans federal government. That's from I think that's a joke quote, but it would be actual. If we ever enforce the law, the government would be abolished. So December 3rd at about 5 a.m. That's when Donald Trump was making his press conference, doing his press conference with the I guess it was the head of NATO, and I said the wide-ranging press statement by Trump drove markets down drastically over the past hour. So that was about 5:21. That was 5:21 a.m. Eastern that I wrote that. It was hilarious. I thought that was wildly entertaining. That Trump press conference. That guy lost his mind. He doesn't have any shame, but We know why that is. Here's a headline. It's official. Police are testing out Boston Dynamics robot dogs. Oh my. Bad news, everybody. Bad news, bad news, bad news. And again, we have to just look at this. Income inequality in America is the highest it's been since Census Bureau started tracking it. Alabama televangelist Acton Bowen pleads guilty to 28 charges of raping and sexually assaulting multiple children. Again, don't send your don't send your children to any of these schools. I'm removing propaganda. Some guy named Dick Eastman said it's not Christianity that's causing him to do this. It's pornography. No, that's not causing these pornography is not causing these men to rape children. I'm sorry. Not saying pornography is a good thing. I'm not sticking up for it, but that's not what's making them do it. What's making them do it is they're mind controlled. They've been victimized themselves and they're therefore victimizing others. They are sick in general, and that they like to target children for any number of different reasons. But don't give me this nonsense like that and twist it around like we're insinuating that this thing's. I'm saying that no one's a Christian except for those who follow, what Jesus said. And that if one is a 501c3 church, they serve Satan, not Jesus, because we talk about the simulation code, and that this is all based on money. And this is a nice segue. Sorry. All right. Sorry, you can see Max's blanket on the couch there. Okay, yeah, here's another one. Why is the United States Supreme Court listed as a private corporation on Dun & Bradstreet? There you go. Because everything about the government is a private corporation. The government is a private corporation, and it's nothing else but that. Now I'm trying to get this thing back. There we go. Heard the little electronic squeak there. So everything that they tell you is a fraud. Alan Dershowitz may be forced to reveal secret communications with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah, but he's still on TV every night, so he'll get out of this one. YouTube eliminates. So, Cliff, are you there?
Yep.
Okay, so Susan Wojciechowski or something like that, what her name is, she's the head of Wachowski, thanks. She's the head of yeah, Max is white, not ruddy. I don't know, he's pretty ruddy. If you look at, he's got like a reddish nose and like a pinkish features though. So he's a little bit of both, but yeah, he's more white than ruddy to be exact. Yeah, so they said that YouTube has gotten rid of 70%, and this is a Susan Wojciechowski interview on 60 Minutes this Sunday, that YouTube's gotten rid of 70% of its quote-unquote controversial content. So I would say that's about right. I've lost about 70% of my views and subscribers on YouTube. I would say that my view hours and minutes are down about 70%. And they don't say it's incorrect information. They don't say it's false propaganda. They say it's controversial. And they also go on to say in this interview, which I've heard before, that they provide the reviewers mental health evaluations, and that by watching the content, that the reviewers become convinced of that the controversial content is true. So they don't ever say it's false. They say the problem is that we have to send them the head shrinks because they're watching information and they're convinced that it's true. Basically, we're saying everything that you hear, it has elements of lies in it from the mainstream media, and here's how we're going to decode it. And I can tell you, they say they've gotten rid of 10,000 YouTube channels completely. And our content here at the Militia Intelligence Report and my individual content, and some of David's and some of Clifford's as well, the putting that up of YouTube has resulted in taking down of at least 20 YouTube channels. Just the content that we're making. So out of the 10,000, we're responsible for about 20 of those channels getting taken down. Have not violated any of the rules that they say we have violated. Has spoke only truth and what we believe to be the truth and our religious convictions, and it is taken down. And the results are the folks that are allowed to watch it, who are watching it on YouTube, and the reviewers know our information to be correct.
That sounds about right.
So, what else can you say? What else can you say but that they're taking the information down?
I mean,
Those who are forced.
Some compensation for the, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, because I was just going to say the folks that are
I was gonna
forced.
say, can we get some compensation?
Yeah, go.
Get some compensation for the controversial comments? I mean, there's so much filth these government agents put on the comments in YouTube. Not as bad as Live Leak, but there's been threats against me, against my life, like, and it's my content that has to be censored, but I'm not advocating censoring comments, but I mean, it's just all these criminals out here, like, they get a free pass. Like, what is going on?
Right. Things that are actually against the law are allowed, and I can tell you, I thought it was really strange when I was removing such comments from the video titled "Staged London Bridge Attack, Election Stunt and Distraction from Epstein Andrew." That was the title. It had, it was up for a couple hours, and on LiveLeak it had already over 3,000 views and 86, likes, which were, upvotes, which is a lot for LiveLeak for a couple hours. It was just going up. And I go through the comments. Every one of them is a negative comment. None of them were even valid in making a legitimate argument. All of them were, you're crazy, or or Japanese, girls vomiting into each other's mouths, or explosive diarrhea. I mean, or just, pure just filth that doesn't have anything to do with anything. But it's got lots of views and lots of upvotes. So, and then when I'm deleting these things, right in real time, when I'm deleting this disgusting stuff that I believe should be banned from the internet. There's no reason to have Japanese women vomiting in each other's mouth on the internet. No reason for it. No reason for videos of explosive diarrhea. No reason for illegal content that that we referenced in reference to Mossad blackmail operations. Those images shouldn't be on. Images of cruelty to animals. Ban it all. Why are you so interested in banning our stuff that's so obvious? You got to be a dummy to look at this stuff and say, oh yeah, sure. Yeah, it was Osama bin Laden that did 9/11, not the Mossad. Not all these guys that made billions of dollars off of demolishing their own building right in front of our own eyes. Oh yeah, sure, that we're just going to say, like, oh yeah, believe that London Bridge attack. Believe that the guy's running away from the scene with the knife that has no blood on it, but that's the murder. That's the murder weapon. And believe that this guy got shot twice in the head and was killed, but then decided while he's lying there on the ground, I'm dead, but I'm gonna put my jacket on. I mean, they're forcing us into like this bizarre kind of censorship, and it's disgusting. You got to be a freaking idiot to believe any of this stuff. You got to be a freaking idiot to believe that every millionaire on this planet is not guilty of treason and doesn't belong in front of a firing squad. After you listen to what we tell you, how do you become a millionaire? Well, exotic derivatives, baby. What? Oh, well, he had just invested in gold. Guess what? I'm telling you, if you got any bit of money, you better put that in any kind of gold that you can get your hands on. Because what they're telling us now is that gold's going to triple over the next 2 years. That's what they're telling us right now. Gold is going to triple. And I know that that either the people are too stupid to watch or anything else. I'm telling you, just like 5 years ago, I predicted the exact conditions that the financial system was in then, and I made a prediction for the future, and it's exactly like I said. Negative interest rates, rigged elections, and the fact that the market, when it was going down, it was, it dropped, thousands of points. They had to turn the market off back in 2015. The day that I was on on television, sitting in the Virginia State Capitol, they had to unplug the system to stop it from going down. And I said, "Hey, this market's oversold. Negative interest rates, the market's oversold, and that's it. It's all rigged. They're going to keep it going and keep it going and keep it going because it's compounding interest and arbitrage infinitely that is running everything." Arbitrage is just using the financial instrument to simultaneously buy and sell a commodity. Can I do that? No, you can't do that. You can't do that because you have to have a certain kind of investor. Yeah, they have preferred investors. So the average person can't do that. You have to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of going along with everything to be able to make money at all. Let's see. Sussex professor claims Israelis blew up the Twin Tower. Help from Zionists and U.S. government. Duh. And Bloomberg, government has the right to infringe on your freedom. All right. Oh, we got promote here. We want to promote Clifford's numerology series. I've been watching and sharing when I can. It's tough to keep up with him. He makes a lot of videos, but just go to Clifford Eberhardt on YouTube and watch all the videos about the numerological values of numbers. It's everything. If you want to build a bridge to God, that's the way to do it. One of the ways to do it. It exhibits itself. It's synchronistic. Let's see. Prince Andrew. This is from hangthebankers.com. I agree with that 100%. Hangthebankers.com. So hangthebankers.com. And the better thing to do, the good thing to do is to go to hangthebankers.com, and the better thing to do is just hangthebankers.com. Hangthebankers.com. Hang the Bankers. That's Hang the Bankers. Prince Andrew. Fake Prince Andrew. Latest royal pedophile exposed. And it shows, of course, the other pedophile. And they're the two baby blood drinking pedophiles, fake royal, Khazarian, Ashkenazi Jews. Those who say that they are English, but they are not. And so here we'll show this picture just in case people have the memory of, because it was when Jimmy Savile died, which was around 2011, 2012 maybe, I think. And so there you go. There's Jimmy Savile and Charles, and there's Epstein and Andrew right there. All right, Jimmy Savile, the UK's most notorious high-profile pedophile, was knighted by the Queen. His crimes were covered up for years by the BBC, by the director of the BBC, Mark Thompson. Thompson is now the CEO of the New York Times, the same media who called Pizzagate fake news. Just in time for Christmas, Trump moves to take food stamps away from 3.7 million Americans. Elite have served America well, says treasonous media. And this is an interview that I made a video out of with David Gergen, who said, quote, the elite have served America well. And this other guy who's some FBI agent who said the American people, they don't understand what's going on with this impeachment stuff, but nor should they. So they're telling you, like, it's too complicated, all this stuff. You don't get it, you don't understand it, and you shouldn't understand it. There was another 60 Minutes thing that talked about how folks, a record number of folks are living in RVs and in tents around the country. And Anderson Pooper pointed out the juxtaposition about how, hey, it's a little strange considering the fact that, and there's the tents the people live in. Here, we'll show you. This is the tents, some of the tents that people are living on, right on the highway. So you don't know this. You could be driving by these tents and, well, these people live outside. And they don't have running water. They've got conditions worse than a 13th century peasant. But hey, the system is working great. Record economy. What do you think about that, Cliff? That a lot of folks in 2019 are living a more primitive existence, at least as far as comfort. I mean, they probably have smartphones and stuff, But as far as toilet and bathing, they're living in more and warmth, being able to keep themselves sheltered from the elements. They are living in worse conditions than a 13th century peasant. Cliff?
I just saw this article that said California is the first third world state.
Right, I know, but I'm saying, like, you even think that, 1,000 years, almost 1,000 years after the Middle Ages, and even Dark Ages, they had houses. You'd think that there would be almost nobody, living in these kind of conditions worse than like 1,000 years ago, because they say life is better now. Slaves had houses in America when Jews and white people and black people and mulattoes owned slaves in the United States. They had houses. They didn't keep them in tents. So why, not in any way saying slavery is any good. I want to make that very clear. But I'm saying conditions now are even worse. I mean, yeah, you got more distractions to entertain yourselves, but man, they could drink beer and have parties and make music and all that other stuff, socialize with one another. They didn't have 300 channels and Netflix and Disney live streaming and all this. Hey, speaking of the pornography thing, like, ABC owns Disney. Disney has that live streaming thing. And I saw a headline the other day saying Disney was buying Pornhub. Is that, I don't know if that's true, if that's accurate, but that's the information that's out there. So it's either accurate or it's not accurate.
Satire. I think that was satire headline.
Oh, okay. So satire.
I
So
think
again, it's
I
hard to
think it was
tell.
from a satire site, but
Well,
same time, something
at the
like
very
that,
at the very
surprised
least,
me too much.
at the very least, Disney is involved in these pedophile rings with Spielberg and Tom Hanks and what's that guy that did all the freaking superhero movies? I don't even pay any attention to him, but he allegedly was. Anyway, this it's too many to keep going along with it. But in any event, these folks, they put out what they put out. We put out what we put out, and I would love to have more of a control over the way we're disseminating this. Again, this is our second broadcast. We were on a roll, and we were getting ready to have more and more views, and then they cut us off, and then they cut the internet off here, so we had to end the they cut us off from sharing, and then we had to end the first broadcast from tonight. Ex-chief advisor for a UN children's program has been convicted and jailed for pedophilia, and it's this guy. And we'll show his picture. So it's this guy, and this is number 2 for the Trudeau guy today. Yeah. So I want to say, along with Virginia, you see this guy Ralph Northam. He got in some trouble, and so did the Attorney General Herring. Evidently, they both painted their faces black for some sort of stunt. You know, they wore blackface for some kind of stunt. And what are the odds of that? And like, all the black people or the black politicians, they seem cool with that. They completely forgot about that. Oh, and the Democrat that the black attorney general who was accused of raping multiple women, that's all just forgotten. And their side won the election. Their side won the election with all that ammunition against them. All that was kind of forgotten about. And again, like, I must say, if they're getting put in line by painting their face black, like, again, another Trudeau reference, he's done that like a bunch of times. That's what he's done that like half a dozen times. And that's the Prime Minister of Canada, who again won. Again won. Imagine what these guys what they really got on these guys. Because I can say, I've never painted my face black. But I know lots of people who have. I know a lot. I mean, more than you'd think. And if you're asking yourself the same question, be like, man, I didn't do that shit. But I know lots of people who did. King's Bench here. King's Bench here, folks. And all these guys are guilty. Donald Trump royal visit. Which royals will Donald meet with? And I say about this in the King's Bench, our common law / God's law requires capital punishment for the usurpers in the above picture for treason and their countless other crimes. Okay, so that's pretty much it for King's Bench tonight, I would say. Cliff, is there anything we missed, really? Oh, wait a second.
Yeah, just time to abolish these criminal governments.
Yeah, absolutely. Time to abolish the criminal government. And again, this is our religion. We are separating ourselves from this. Everything we say is our religious belief. This is obviously the royal militia. I think next week we'll start showing, our claims more and more. A lot of them are documented. I want to say that don't get too caught up in some things. Like I saw this 23andMe commercial, or maybe it was Ancestry, where some idiot is coming out of a bathroom saying, we're Hungarian? I thought we were Portuguese. And I'll tell you, it doesn't work like that, folks, because the true royal bloodlines are Portuguese and Hungarian and English and Irish and Scottish and Russian and Ukrainian and Dutch and Danish and Swedish and all the other things, you know, mixed in, and there's this one specific bloodline that we pinpointed, and we pinpointed kind of where the chasm in history came, where the Jews started hating the quote-unquote Europeans more than anything, and that was, again, the time of the Kievan Rus Empire that drove the Khazarians out of Russia and Eastern Europe, and that's what you're seeing now, that this reversing the trend has been ever since. And they did it. They placed their court Jews inside of all these places all along too. So there you go. I mean, that's it. That's it for our broadcast tonight. I hope that we covered everything properly. I feel that we you know, knowing just one of these facts, one of these 20 facts that we said, it just makes everything null and void. And the only way you can say something like the international money markets are legitimate is by saying, okay, they're 93% a fraud and 7% legitimate. That's the only way you can say they're legitimate. Yeah, I hope David's on the next broadcast. Bill Wright says, wonderful broadcast again. Thanks, Chris and Cliff. Hope David joins the broadcast. Nothing better than you guys railing against the criminal, satanic global system together. I agree. Yeah, I guess we'll end it there because I don't know how many times I can say the same thing. It's all a fraud. It's all an abomination before God. Oh, this is how I want to close it out. Weights and measures in the Constitution. Weights and measures in Come on now. Constitution. That's so funny. I'll show y'all this, how funny this stuff is. How funny this nonsense is. I wrote out weights and measures in the Constitution, and it doesn't appear anywhere, right? Weights and measures in Houston? What the heck does that mean? But no weights and measures in the Constitution. So let's go to an actual search and see what it comes up. Oh, it's right actually in the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8. Congress shall have the power to coin money and regulate the value thereof and of foreign coin and to fix the standard weights and measures. Okay. So they don't do that at all. Who does that? Let's see. The CPM, LIBOR, COMEX. That's who does it. And they got rid of LIBOR, so that's not valid right now, but it's the same, folks. It is admitted in that 2011 report from CPM called Dematerialization of Gold, and as you get the chart under the gold back instrument in global trends, what you see is a chart that was expected right out of CPM's book for 2011. CPM Group is a commodities market research, consulting, financial advisory, and asset management firm. What the chart shows is that the paper claims on gold are approximately 93-1 versus physical gold that is available in the same year. That is astonishing. That means if there were 100 owners of gold out there in the world, if 100 people owned all the gold and 7 people called in the gold that they owned, there would be none left for the 93 remaining out of 100. Put simply, anyone who owns several ounces of gold through a paper contract with promises to deliver physical gold at a specific price, if physical delivery is demanded, is one of 93 people in line waiting for the same several ounces of gold. If all 93 people demanded delivery, one of those 93 people would get it and the other 92 will not. That's in the Constitution standard of weights and measures. It's fraud. It's 93% fraud and 7% legitimate. Hey, you know, when you eat your food, if you go like, okay, hey, you're going to get the food with that's 93% genuine food and 7% poison. You wouldn't go like, hey, give me that 93% poison and 7% just actual food. Come on. Come on. All right. Well, we're going to close it there. It's Chris Dorsey of the Royal Militia signing off. Thanks to Cliff. Thanks to David. Peace and God bless.